Okay, good morning. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. Today, I'm delighted, honored to have with me a repeat guest, Brian Cuban, who's the younger brother of Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, also an author, a lawyer. Brian, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on again.
I should say, welcome back to the
Yeah,
program.
welcome back. Yeah, thanks, Richard.
So, Brian, you obviously wrote this fantastic book called The Ambulance Chaser. You spoke about it last time. Most people, they write one book and they're done. You have a new book now called The Body Brokers. Well, tell me a little bit about what made you want to write a second book.
Well, The Ambulance Chaser was always going to be part of a trilogy, a,
Oh,
a thriller trilogy. So this is the second in the series, and it's the continuing exploits of the protagonist, Jason Feldman. And he finds his girlfriend dead of a fentanyl overdose. And he and her toxicologist roommate go on a quest to prove that she was murdered.
hmm,
And it takes them from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia and back to Pittsburgh. And Jason is kind of a disgraced lawyer. He's had his law license revoked, and he's just about to get it back when all this takes place.
interesting. Now, did you have most of this already worked out when you wrote the first book, or did most of this come when you started actually writing the second part of the
No,
trilogy?
I didn't have any of it worked out. It all came afterwards. I took a break. Writing books, writing novels. I used to be a marathon runner. I've run 8 of them, and
Uh-huh.
I analogize it to kind of like running a marathon. When you finish, you swear you'll never do it again, and you have to wait for all the pain and the suffering and all of that to get into the recess memory. And it took me a while. So this was 3 years later. The Body Brokers was released December 3rd. So it just takes some time. And I finished this one, and I'm thinking, well, will there be another? There will, because it's a trilogy. But I don't know how long it'll take me to really push the third one forward. Although I've already have an idea, and I've already written a few scenes. So this
Huh.
one's taking a different trajectory because I've already done some work on it.
Uh-huh.
The book. Yeah, but I really enjoyed writing The Body Brokers. It is kind of a rip from the headlines kind
Huh.
of deal. And it also, in addition to being crime thriller fiction, it also has a lot of nuggets of truth, science truth in it,
Hmm.
in terms of what really happens with fentanyl exposure
Hmm.
and battling some myths about fentanyl and how it comes into the United States and what's going on with it. So there is some real science in the book, and I deliver the science through the roommate of the deceased girl, who is a toxicologist.
Interesting. Did you try to do anything stylistically different than the first novel, or did you try to change it up a little bit?
Yes, what I did was that the first novel was really there was a bit of me in it,
Hmm.
in the protagonist. The second novel, not so much at all. The second novel is much more created, unique characters, and from that standpoint, and I think that's just a learning curve in
Mm,
writing,
mm, mm.
right? Characters all have to stand on their own 2 feet versus being reflections of the author. And
Yeah,
I
totally.
see a lot more of that in the Body Brokers. But the Body Brokers is also written in the first person present
Mm.
from the unique perspective of the protagonist, just like the Ambulance Chaser was. Now, the third book will probably not be written that way.
Hmm.
It'll probably be written more in terms of stepping back and being able to see the perspectives of all the characters.
Mhm. Now, did the second book take longer? Was it more difficult to write than the first one, or do you feel like now it's getting a little easier? What was your sense?
It took no, it I mean it only took longer because of my writing process. I don't think it was more difficult to write. If anything, it was easier because I've
Uh-huh.
learned so much.
Yeah.
But from the writing process, it is difficult for me to write when I'm not motivated to write. Some of my worst fiction is written when I think I have to write. Okay. A lot of writers, they'll write every day, and I had a time that I write, that I'm at my best creative when my creative juices are flowing, and that's always first thing in the morning. But I don't always feel motivated to write every morning, and when I have to push it out, then that tends to be at my least creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were those ebbs and flows. Plus, I work, I speak, uh, and plus there was a lot more research
Mm,
involved in the body brokers.
mm,
I had to do a lot of research on the fentanyl epidemic, the fentanyl scene in Kensington, Philadelphia,
mm,
which is kind of ground zero for where it all began.
mm,
And so there was a lot of that going on.
mm.
I'm very involved in the real world in battling fentanyl misinformation. And so I had that going for me, but there was much more detailed research in terms of the body brokers.
For you, what's kind of the hardest thing when you write a novel? Is it, let's say, is it the dialogue? Is it working out the details? Is it the research? I mean, what do you find the hardest thing?
For me, I don't find dialogue particularly difficult, like a lot of
Yeah.
some other authors might.
Yeah.
Say dialogue is one of the most difficult parts. But once you learn it and once you understand how every line has to move the story forward, it becomes dialogue becomes much easier. And if anything, I probably over dialogue in
Hmm.
my books.
Hmm.
You're always looking for a certain. If you look at what how it's taught, right? There's supposed to be a certain balance, but you look at books and they're 80% dialogue. You look at books and they're 10% dialogue. It really just depends on the style of the author
Hmm.
and the type of novel. Mine is genre, right? Thriller genre, crime thriller. So it moves very. I want it to move very fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not literary.
Yeah. Yeah.
The dialogue is meant to move the book forward at a quick pace.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want my book to be able to be read in 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Now, do you find yourself actually changing the book a lot as you're writing it, or
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the first draft is always SHIT, right? I mean, that's just how it is, and every author will tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, novels change from first draft to final draft. It may look nothing like the first draft, sure.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
Getting it on paper is always the biggest challenge for me, just getting it on paper.
Yeah.
But
I'm
once
sure.
you get it on paper, a lot of it's crap, and you look at it and you're revising, and it's not what you mean. And as you go through it, you see different things, you see different ways of a character expressing himself, herself, or their self, and you're always looking at those types of things.
Yeah, interesting. Now, when you write either of these books or when you wrote both these books, did you have was a movie in the back of your mind? Has anyone approached you about
No, a
that?
movie has never been in the back of my mind, but The Ambulance Chaser has been optioned. It was
Oh,
optioned a while back, the movie rights, and we actually have interested investors. So after 3 years, it's finally inching forward, and there are
hmm.
people because you need money, people, right?
Yeah,
Every the books get optioned all the time, and no one and they don't and no deals are ever cut, right? They
yeah,
just
yeah,
there or they're
yeah, yeah,
they're just not very good, and uh, and so people take interest, but actually getting money people who are willing to raise money to have it made is tough.
yeah.
So we have inched to the next step with the ambulance chaser, where money people have stepped forward and said, "We think we can raise the money to get this made, and we believe in the book, we believe in the plot." And so from that standpoint, I'm just kind of along for the ride, right? If it ever gets made, you'll see based on the novel by Brian Cuban. And that's what you'll see. I don't have choices in this, right? And so I'm not part of that.
That'd
But
still be still be pretty cool. Now
yeah, so
you're,
the script. I mean, there is a script, there is a
oh,
screenplay, and so it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But
yeah,
I don't worry about it. I don't think about it. I optioned it, and I move on to other stuff. And if it gets made, great. If people take interest, great. But for the ambulance chaser, we have inched forward. We have moved forward towards the first down, right? Towards the first down, couple yards.
Now, your first book obviously did super well. What's been the feedback on the second book? I know that isn't that always kind of a concern that the people say, well, the second book wasn't as good as the first one, or
Uh, I mean, we're still waiting on the numbers from the launch, but I honestly don't know because I also launched the ambulance chaser wasn't launched during a general election. I'm not John Grisham or Don Winslow, where you have the name and you're writing people are going to buy it. You just write for the joy of writing.
Yeah, yeah. Now, after you finish this book, I mean, are you still now in the recovery stage, or are you geared up and ready to write that third one, or where are you at in terms
I'm still kind of
psychologically?
pushing until the year's over. I'm pushing the body brokers because I want people to buy it for Christmas and the holidays. But
Yeah,
I'll just probably just move on to something else. You have to let it go and move on. It's not, whatever it sells, right? Uh, you can't make people want to buy it.
yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
so it's just if it, hopefully it has good word of mouth and it'll gather steam.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what about audiobooks? Do you have an audiobook for either of
The
them?
audiobook will drop in late January.
Okay.
And so I'm excited about that. But yeah, there's ebook Kindle right now,
Uh-huh.
and then paperback, no hardback, because hardbacks take longer to get out and they're more expensive. I
Mm,
want to keep the book as affordable as possible.
yeah.
But yeah, the audiobook will drop. It was we got it. We had someone who thought enough of it to give an advance for the audiobook rights, and
Huh.
they'll choose whoever narrates it. It won't be me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you
yeah,
did you think about narrating it?
I did in the last one, the ambulance chaser, but it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
It really is, and I just didn't have the desire to do that. They
Yeah,
have
yeah.
people who, actors, voice actors, and actors who make money on the side doing that, kind of like Cameo, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They,
right, right.
you're right. So they make money on the side doing that, and so
You
I'll
let
let
the
professionals who know how to narrate.
did the first one have an audiobook?
It did have one, and it was
Yeah.
a Graham Rowat did it, and he's a very respected audio
Huh.
voiceover and actor and writer, and he did a great job.
Okay. And how did the audiobook compare with the reading book? I'm just curious because I listen to audiobooks too, and I was
I
just
like
curious.
audiobooks, and some people will do nothing but audiobooks.
Yeah.
You always see, well, audiobooks isn't really reading. Yeah, come on, of course it's reading, right? Right. And so I thought it was a good audiobook.
Yeah. Did it do pretty well as an
I
audiobook?
don't know. I know it covered its advance.
Okay.
I really, once I move past, I don't really look at the numbers
Yeah.
because, what's the point of doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You followed your passion, right? You followed your passion, and this isn't a money making business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're writing, the choices I make are, do I want to put PR into it? Do I want to do this,
Mm.
that? And even when, like, if you hire a PR firm, right? It can end up being the biggest waste of money ever because,
Yeah.
well, especially fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nonfiction's a little different because when I wrote The Addicted Lawyer, I have expertise, and people are more interested in things like that, right? And so was much easier to get PR on The Addicted
Yeah.
Lawyer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for fiction, it's tough. And so you make these choices and where you want to spend your money, but you can't make people want your book, and so it can be good, it can be waste. And I've learned I should do a course on that, what really works and what doesn't, in terms of PR and marketing. And you know what I found? It's that works the best when you're marketing a book,
Yeah.
especially when you have a small publisher like me, is you just have to have no shame,
Hmm.
right? You have to put shame aside because no one's going to market it for you. Smoke signals aren't going to do it, right? So you've probably seen I'm on LinkedIn and I'm putting it out there. I'll probably message every single LinkedIn contact after the first of the year. Some will say, "Quit doing this. You're annoying me," and that's what you get. But you have to do it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do it because no one's going to do it for you. The book's
Yeah.
not going to sell itself,
Yeah. That
and
makes sense.
that is just what you learn when it comes to book marketing. Small
Mhm.
market books, right? When you don't have Random House who says, "Yes, you're our book," and even for people when they're stable, they only choose so many books, and they're all names that transcend celebrity and things like that, and unless they think you just hit on something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You look at the bestseller list, right? You look at the New York Times bestseller list. It is the 98% the same people every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just understand the realities of PR, of marketing. And I've lost a lot of LinkedIn friendships, quick, send them your book. But that's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to do it, or you're not going to, or you're going to sell to your 5 friends, your mom, and your key tasks.
Now, do you have fun writing the books? I'm assuming you enjoy it because otherwise you're
I
not going to do
do.
this if you didn't
Sometimes it's
enjoy it.
fun. I mean, the process itself is fun. The research, I love the research. I enjoy the
Oh.
research
Mm-hmm.
because with the research, I'm increasing my own knowledge. And every time you learn something, Richard, every time you get a piece of information, it opens up a door, right? I didn't know this road existed. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you one piece of information can give you 10 different perspectives on the direction a character can go. And a lot of times you see a character take a direction that you never envisioned that character was going to take.
Yeah, right.
So, and that comes from information, right? Because not knowing, you don't know what you don't know, but once you know, you're like, wow, okay, I didn't see this. Or see that. That's the fun of writing.
Yeah.
And that's certainly the fun of fiction writing.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Brian, this has been a wonderful conversation. Congratulations again on your second book. If your first book ever makes it into a movie, you'll have to come back and tell me about it.
I absolutely will. I'll be curious to see who gets to play some of these things.
Sounds good. This is Richard Hsu and Brian Cuban. Thanks.